Hey, welcome back for a new video. I'm Stephanie West. I'm an LPC here in the state of Michigan. I work in West Michigan at Joe Martino Counseling, and hopefully today's video is kind of life-changing. At least it's stuff that's changed my life. And I want to share about some personal stuff in just a minute here, but I want to go through a typical sequence that happens if and when we want change to happen in our lives. One of the inevitable pieces is we're going to have to learn to tolerate distress. And so a lot of times we think, well, I'll get started when I'm motivated, or I'll get started when I am in a better place emotionally, or I'll get started when things just feel a little bit more comfortable. And then you notice that you never get started on whatever the it is because you don't wake up one day just motivated or comfortable. It doesn't happen that way. And that's because of science. And science says, and not just science, but behavioral science says, there's a predictable process that we go through where if we want to be emotionally well, if we want to be emotionally okay with new things, unfortunately, we're going to have to show up differently first. And so when someone says fake it till you make it, that is science, baby. It is something you have to do. And what I work at Joe Martino Counseling. And if you're unfamiliar with Joe, I would recommend you check out some of his work. He has a podcast, he has literature out there, he has a book. One of his adages is fake it till you become it. Think about what is available to you if you go out and practice being who you want to be, and then you become that person. And this is why that's possible. So we talk through thoughts are the launching point for change. If you expect something to happen in your life that is different from what you're doing now, you've got to wrangle your thoughts. If you're not willing to wrangle your thoughts, if you think to yourself, I can't do it, you're right, you can't. But when you start to create space for, hey, maybe I can do it, we start to make some shifts and some movements. So my thoughts get in alignment and I say, okay, I can do hard things. I can do whatever this challenge is. I want to make shifts and changes. The next piece that shows up is you have to go out there and you have to do the action. You have to do something that's going to be discomforting or uncomfortable for you. That's just the reality of it. But if you navigate the discomfort enough, the emotions will regulate. That's how it works. So I work on my thought patterns. I go out and I act a particular way. And then my emotions come along and remind me, hey, Steph, you're okay. You can do hard things. And so I want to use a very specific anecdote in my own life. When I was in therapy a year ago, my therapist said to me, Steph, you wear very specific clothing, and I notice that your arms are always covered. And I'm like, yup, I don't like my arms. My arms are a tension point for me because, I've had a really big weight overhaul in my life. And unfortunately, this is the consequence or the byproduct of being morbidly obese for a long span. And so I just cover my arms. It's just easier for me to feel confidence that way. And he just said to me, I wonder if you started to do it differently. And so over the last year, I've had to slowly and in deliberate small doses start to expose myself to the discomfort of going out and not always having my arms covered. And so I did it in more socially appropriate places that it felt more organic. So I, at the pool, would wear a bathing suit, and it took me a while to even be able to do that. And it was uncomfortable, but over time, my body was able to regulate and I was able to be okay being out in public in a bathing suit, even though I have this loose skin going on. Then I was able to go to workout classes. So when I'm doing boxing, when I'm doing high intensity training, I'm able to wear a top that is sleeveless. And my brain was able to create an exception of, okay, this is a place where I can go and get away with it because everyone else is wearing, tank tops as well. And then over time, I had to stretch myself and say, what would it look like to go to work and not wear sleeves? Is that something I would be willing to do? Well, I've had success in other areas. And so as it related to coming to work, it was a matter of, yes, it's something I'm willing to do, but what if clients comment on it? What's my plan there? What if someone comments on the fact that, I have this arm situation going on? I work with kids. It's inevitable that someone's going to say something. So in my thoughts, I think, okay, what do I want to do if that happens? Behaviorally, I'll just come up with a plan. And then emotionally, over time, it just isn't going to hit me as sensitively because emotions will calm down the more I show up and do the same thing. So the fact that, a year ago, I wasn't able to go out and wear tank tops. And when I say I wasn't able, I'm saying I chose not to. That's just not a thing for me anymore. I don't feel that level of sensitivity, but it only shifted because I stopped going out in sleeves and I had to talk myself through that and say, you're okay, this is okay, we're okay. So you think of anything in your life where you want to do some changing, where you say, hey, I want to start eating more healthfully. Okay, what does that look like? You cognitively, you come up with a plan. And then you start eating more healthfully. And then over time, it just becomes a part of what you do. But the emotions, the deprivation, the frustration, that's going to be there, but we just anticipate that. If you want to start doing something related to a financial overhaul, maybe you want to stop some impulse spending. What you're going to do is you're going to think through the plan. And then when impulse spending urges show up, you're going to tolerate the distress of not swiping the card or hitting buy now. I will say Amazon is brilliant to do that buy now feature. It gets me almost every time. But if you wanted that behavior to change, then you stop hitting buy now. You stop swiping the card. And initially you're going to feel maybe panic or frustration or overwhelm. But the more you do it, the more your emotions regulate, the more your body stays in a regulated state, and the less you have to navigate the distress of committing to the behaviors that you want to be true. But if you're waiting to be inspired, if you're waiting to just wake up one day and get your act together, it does not work that way. The goal is to get your thoughts wrangled and then show up in the way you want to show up, and you do it again and again, and your emotions are going to take care of themselves. That's how it works. That's sound science. And you can probably look back in your history and find places that you've already had some success there. So think about, what does it look like to go forward and set a goal for myself? What does it look like to show up in that way for myself? And will I over time experience relief with my emotions? I can assure you, you will, because that's what it looks like to step into growth. That's what it looks like to step into new spaces, maybe that we're under practiced or they're unfamiliar for us. That's how you show up and be the person that you actually want to be.